Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'll be covering the Curse of the Worgen and the Fall of Silvermoon from Chronicle Volume 3. So let's go! As Arthas and the Scourge made their way towards kel'thuzad, some of the undead figured they'd have a little adventure of their own. Some buggered off to the Plaguelands, whilst others wandered into a region called Silverpine Forest. They made quick progress right up until they found themselves staring at the Greymane Wall. The Gilneans hadn't sent any forces to Lordaeron. When the kingdom fell, King Genn Greymane kinda just took this as confirmation that he'd made the right choice in isolating his kingdom. Thanks to the wall, the people of Gilneas were safe. The Scourge's numbers were small, there was nothing to worry about. Once the undead realised they couldn't breach the wall, they left. But then they came back, with more undead mates. They battered the wall day and night trying to get through. Greymane figured he should probably do something, rather than just wait for them to succeed, so he ordered his soldiers to sort it out. The gates swung open, and out they poured. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a terrible idea. The Gilnean soldiers were no match for the Scourge. Every time a soldier fell, they'd get back up again and start fighting for the Scourge. So Genn turned to his royal archmage Arugal to find a solution, and Arugal had a plan. He'd learned of a mythical creature called Worgen. He didn't know their origins, but he knew where to find them. He'd sensed them in another dimension called the Emerald Dream. Summoning them wouldn't be difficult, however they were savage and would be difficult to control, so possibly not the best idea. But the king really had no other option, so he was like, alright, bring the wolf beasts. So Arugal got started. He opened a rift between the physical world and the Emerald Dream, and the Worgen wasted no time. They arrived in Silverpine and started ripping through the Scourge. The undead ran away, and then the wolf beasts started ripping through the Gilneans instead. The surviving soldiers cheesed it back behind the wall, and the gate slammed shut. Genn breathed a sigh of relief as it seemed like the Scourge had been defeated, and the Worgen were trapped outside the wall. But then Genn received the first reports of the Worgen inside the wall. What Genn and Arugal hadn't realised was that the Worgen carry a curse. This had spread to some of the Gilnean soldiers who'd been bitten by the Worgen and then retreated back. Over time, they transformed into wolf beasts and spread the curse even further. In the end, Greymane had traded one monstrous enemy for another. Bloody idiot. But enough of that for now. Far north of Gilneas, Arthas and the Scourge had reached the forest bordering kel'thuzad. Weirdly, they hadn't met much resistance at all. The forests were eerily silent and deserted. It almost seemed as if the High Elves had fled in terror. Had they bollocks? The elves were busy preparing. King Anasterian Sunstrider had left the task of organising defences and leading the military to Ranger General Sylvanas Windrunner. Sylvanas had ordered most of the kingdom's magi and priests into Silvermoon City. They would act as a last line of defence against the Scourge. But it shouldn't even come to that, because Sylvanas and her rangers were in the woods, outside the city. These rangers were known as the Farstriders, a lightly armoured and highly mobile troop. They carried great honour and prestige in kel'thuzad. As the Scourge tried to move through the forest, Sylvanas and the Farstriders were like, ha-ha! The fighting was fierce and frenzied, and Arthas was furious. The Scourge outnumbered these rangers. It was only a matter of time, but they were definitely going to make it to Silvermoon City. Arthas knew this, Sylvanas knew this, so why's she even bloody bothering? Sylvanas was basically just buying the defenders in the capital time to prepare for a siege. She ordered her rangers to make one final stand outside the city. She herself would deal with Arthas. The Death Knight and Ranger General clashed, but the previous days of battle had taken their toll on Sylvanas. As her strength faded, Arthas found an opening, and he stabbed her with Frostmourne. Thing is though, she'd kinda pissed him off so much that he wasn't really willing to let her die. He ripped her spirit from her body and converted her into a spectral banshee. She was now chained to the Lich King's will, unable to disobey him, even if she wanted to. It's also worth mentioning that there was a little bit of treachery from within the High Elf Society. A High Elf Magister, called Darkan Drathir, was arrogant and felt like he deserved more recognition. Arthas had sensed this, whispered into Darkan's mind, and made him an offer. Serve the Lich King and you can have all the power and recognition you want. So Darkan had betrayed his entire race and helped the Scourge destroy and bypass the city's magical barriers, like Bandonoriel. You remember Bandonoriel? Pretty sure I pronounced it Bindi Bandi Bardi Doo in a video about the High Elves a while back. So unsurprisingly, Arthas, the Scourge and Sylvanas made short work of the army that had amassed within the city and cut a path north towards the Isle of Kel'danas. King Anasterian Sunstrider and the surviving elves had fled back to this island. Their priority was now to protect the Sunwell. Besides, the undead had no ships. What are they going to do? Swim? Nothing to worry about. Arthas dipped Frostmourne into the waters off the northern coast and a makeshift bridge appeared. King Anasterian saw this and was like, oh for goodness sake, but he steeled himself for battle. If the elves stood any chance here, it was with Anasterian. He may be elderly, but he was wise and crafty. And he too had a great weapon, an ancient sword known as Fellow Malorn. Anasterian lasted much longer than most against Arthas, but he didn't win. With one strike, Arthas shattered Fellow Malorn, and with the next, he shattered Anasterian's face. The Scourge swept over Kel'danas, and very few elves escaped. Arthas took kel'thuzad's remains and placed them in the Sunwell. He drew on the Fount's magics and wove a spell that remade the fallen necromancer into a terrifying lich. Doing this kind of messed up the Sunwell. The Fount would never be the same again. Its corrupted energies gradually permeated kel'thuzad and the elves who still lived there. So Arthas and his army didn't hang around. They immediately set off south towards Dalaran. The land where he and his undead had set foot festered and died, and later became known as the Dead Scar. And we're leaving it there! That was fun. In the next Volume 3 video, Genn is going to be sent on a little journey, and kel'thuzad is going to have a little chat with Arthas and stuff. I'm not a marketing person, I don't know how to make these videos sound exciting. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe and all that. Thanks very much for watching, and see ya!